Tēnā koutou te whānau o Auckland Unitarians. Tēnā koutou nā manhere. No mai, hire mai ki tēnei whare karakia a te atua. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, katoa. Getting pretty good at that. Welcome to this space made sacred by Auckland Unitarians for 119 years. Welcome to this community of seekers, of questioners, and of those open to the revelation that comes from experiences with one another and the spirit of life. May we remember that while we have some answers, we don't have all the answers. While we do know some things, we don't know everything. And while we have lived, others have experiences very different from our own. Welcome to this community full of questions and possibilities. And welcome if you're here for the first time. We hope you will find the experience enriching. Just so you know, the service is really the prelude to morning tea. So we hope that you will come and join us. It is our sacrament of hospitality, and it won't be complete without you. My opening words are by Charles, I think it's pronounced Magistro, who wrote these reflections called "It's Not Easy Being a Unitarian Universalist." I'm amused by the view that it's easy to be a Unitarian Universalist. It's as easy to be a Unitarian Universalist as it is to be persistent, courageous, and curious. It's as easy to be a Unitarian Universalist as it is to search the murky waters of life without sure charts to guide us, or any guarantee that we will find a safe port to put down anchor. It's as easy to be Unitarian Universalist as it is to overcome the natural fear of the unknown and venture forth with nothing to sustain us save our zest for living and hunger for new experience and knowledge. Our way in religion is not the way of ease. We are called to be sailors. For many worlds exist waiting to be discovered, and not the least of these worlds are within ourselves. It takes as much persistence, courage, and curiosity to look into our own depths, to come to terms with the twin mysteries of being alive and having to die, to see ourselves in new and larger ways without being dishonest about our limitations. I've chosen words for lighting our chalice today that were written by a friend named Bet Weineke. See, Unitarians, even worldwide, are like New Zealanders. There's 2 degrees of separation. So I keep running into names of people I have known or still know. Unfortunately, Bet's died 3 years ago. But the reason I chose her is not because she's a Unitarian Universalist minister who was quite brilliant, but because her husband, Peter Hasland, suggested I should apply for my first position in a Unitarian Universalist church 24 years ago. So it's in honor of Peter that I light the chalice. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us. Please join me in the words of this congregation's covenant in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all people shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each other and with our God. Being a curious sort, I wondered what the origin of curiosity killed the cat was. The reference is from a Ben Jonson play, Every Man in His Humors. Only he said, care will kill a cat. In his use of care, he meant worry. Worry will kill a cat. The play is thought to have been performed in 1598 by the Lord Chamberlain's men, a troupe of actors including William Shakespeare. Shakespeare was no slouch when it came to appropriating a memorable line, and it crops up the following year in Much Ado About Nothing. He says, what courage, man, what though care killed a cat, thou hast mettle enough in thee to kill care. The proverbial expression, curiosity killed the cat, which is usually used when attempting to stop someone from asking unwanted questions, is much more recent. Their earlier form was still in use in 1898, when it was defined in Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable, care killed the cat. It said that a cat has 9 lives, but care would wear them all out. Curiosity hasn't received a good press over the centuries. St. Augustine wrote in Confessions in 397 that in the eons before creating heaven and earth, God fashioned hell for the inquisitive. John Clarke, in Paromeologia, published in 1639, suggested that he that prieth into every cloud may be struck with a thunderbolt. And in Don Juan, Lord Byron called curiosity that low vice. That bad opinion and the fact that cats are notoriously inquisitive led to the source of their demise being changed from care to curiosity. Michael Foucault, in his book, The Masked Philosopher, defends the cat. Curiosity is a vice that has been stigmatized in turn by Christianity, by philosophy, and even by a certain conception of science. Curiosity is seen as futility. The word, however, pleases me. To me, it suggests something altogether different. It evokes concern. It evokes the care one takes for what exists and could exist. A readiness to find strange and singular what surrounds us. A certain relentlessness to break up our familiarities and to regard otherwise the same things. A fervor to grasp what is happening and what passes. A casualness in regard to the traditional hierarchies of the important and the essential. He goes on to say, I dream of a new age of curiosity. We have the technical means for it. The desire is there. The things to be known are infinite. The people who can employ themselves at this task exist. Why do we suffer? There is no point in adopting a protectionist attitude to prevent bad information from invading and suffocating the good. Rather, we must multiply the paths and the possibility of comings and goings. The frequent rejoinder to curiosity killed the cat is, anybody know? and satisfaction brought it back. I've not been able to trace the source of this odd reply. The first citation of it that I found in print is from an Iowan college magazine in February 1933. However, it is a clever response in that curiosity lights up several parts of the brain in an MRI scan. And satisfying that curiosity lights up the same part of the hypothalamus as just having had good sex. No wonder Unitarianism is a curious faith. Albert Einstein once observed, "It's a miracle that curiosity survives formal education." Leanne McElroy's poem, The Tree of Knowledge, shows us that it doesn't have to be this way. She writes, "I noticed that most of my students were gazing longingly out the window on an unusually beautiful Southern California morning. I paused in my lecture to discover that they were collectively noticing the unusual fruit exploding on the tree just outside our window. What kind of fruit is that?" They wondered with more curiosity than they had ever shown for Plato or Rousseau. And so I told them about the pomegranate, how according to the Quran it filled the gardens of paradise, how its image had once adorned the temples of Solomon, how it doomed Persephone to Hades, how it symbolizes prosperity and fertility in Hinduism, how it came here to us from the Iranian plateaus to Turkey, across the Mediterranean, and transported across the oceans by the Spanish conquistadors. How the city of Kandahar, now bombed and ravaged, was once reputed to have the finest pomegranates in the world. I told them that this was my favorite tree. And then we all went outside for a moment to marvel at this tree, just staring for a moment. While the wind blew across our faces, a tender caress across the ages, and then the moment was gone. The next day, I walked into class, and someone, anonymously, had placed a single pomegranate on my desk at the front of the class, an altar before 30 students, all newly baptized, the red stain of pomegranate seeds outlining their smiles. Curiosity frees us to seek truth and meaning like memorizing times tables and diagramming sentences never could. Einstein knew that our capacity for lifelong curiosity is unique among mammals, including cats. Other animals might be innately curious while they are young, but humans have the capacity to stay curious our whole lives. That natural curiosity leads us to explore even if we didn't know why or what for, to simply explore and to try and to test and to learn for our own sake. We can't always predict what we're going to need to know in the future. So we look far ahead and wide, and we store it for later. While we never lose it completely, there is a way our natural childlike curiosity gets curtailed as we grow up. We absorb a whole host of messages about how we're supposed to be and think and what we're supposed to do. We don't even always notice the sight-limiting blinders we acquire over time. Don't even notice the range of topics we've lost interest in, or the number of things we think we fully understand that we've ceased to question or wonder much about. By the time we're adults, we've learned a particular set of viewpoints from the people around us or experiences we've had. And we're frequently inclined to just stick with that. Our curiosity may be inherent, but often gets sidelined. We may never lose it, but it's not what it was. And in our society these days, the model is one of have an opinion, voice it with conviction, and then voice it again, and maybe again, and again. In that environment, leading with curiosity, exploring questions, wondering if maybe we don't know as much as we think we do, this kind of attitude can feel out of step. But to be curious, genuinely curious, we have to let go of certainty, let go of conviction, let go of the ways we've always perceived things, or how others do things, or the way things have just always been. And that takes courage. UU Minister Victoria Safford speaks of the courage to be curious using the metaphor of perception and sight. She writes, to see, simply to look and to see, is an ethical act, an intentional choice. To see with open eyes is a spiritual practice and thus a risk. For it can open you to ways of knowing the world and to loving it that will lead to inevitable consequences. The awakened eye is a conscious eye, a willful eye, and brave. Because to see things as they are, each in its own truth, will make you very vulnerable. In reflecting on our words, the Reverend Scott Taylor has an epiphany. Consequences. I'm not sure I ever thought of curiosity in terms of consequences. But I think Safford's got it right. There is a type of curiosity that is about enjoyment and adventure. It invites us to experience life as a playground. But there is another type of curiosity that leads to consequences, that changes us. This kind of curiosity is about more than enjoyment. Indeed, it's the kind that drives us past enjoyment and comfort. It's not about enriching oneself. It's about altering oneself. Let me offer an example. Jen Pacici observes how curiosity can make us kinder and gentler, less judgmental. She shares this anecdote. Something clicked. Curiosity is the key to letting go of judgment as well. I became even more certain of this about a month ago. I'd taken my daughter to a story time at the library. As we left the circle, I noticed one mom, a woman who had 2 children with her, was not engaged with her kids at all. In fact, she was sitting at a table, turned away from the group, playing with her phone. I saw this as a perfect opportunity to test out my new theory that curiosity would help me let go of judgment. My old thought would have been, ugh, look at her. She's not even been paying attention to her kids. What's so important on her phone that she has to look at her right this second? But this time, I consciously shifted the direction of my thoughts, trying to be curious about her actions, rather than making assumptions about them. Could she be waiting for a really important email from a family member or friend? Is she using her phone to search for a new job? There's something so freeing about giving a person the benefit of the doubt and coming up with possible reasons for their behavior that go beyond the obvious. It feels so good to operate this way. This is the type of curiosity we Unitarian Universalists have fallen in love with. One might even say have put our faith in. We don't want curiosity just to be fun or interesting. We want it to make us anew. In other words, the message of our faith is not simply be curious, it's be curious until there are consequences. It's fine to be inquisitive for the fun of it. But at another level, we're called to remember that curiosity is not a game. Well, maybe it's the greatest game, the one that drives us to constantly become more for our sakes and for the sake of others. One last thing, in case you're curious. No cats were harmed in the preparation of this sermon. Amen. You seemed to have so much fun talking to each other last week. I thought I'd see if you wanted to do it again. And this time, I want you to choose somebody near you and have a conversation with them about what makes you curious about them. And see where that leads. Maybe nowhere. Maybe you already know everything there is to know about that person and are no longer interested in them. Do you want to tell them that? Or it may lead you to find and discover some things you have in common or some things that change how you view the world. So find somebody. Do it in pairs, I think. I'm delighted to hear all this curiosity in the room. That's terrific. Please feel free to continue that conversation at morning tea. Please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the flame of truth, the warmth of community, or our commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. My closing words are by Scott Taylor. May we go with courage, hungry for a curiosity that challenges and changes us, knowing that our answers are never complete and the questions make us whole.